Listen up. I had a request from this morning to elevate the energy in the room. I'm doing the best that I can, and I am not seeing reciprocation. So let me make something abundantly clear to all of you. I am willing to make an absolute fool out of myself to entertain and delight you. In order for me to do that, you have to give reciprocative behavior. So I'm going to have Mike turn the music back up. Clear your laps right now. I saw some of y'all after the pink party last night. I know you got moves. Bring the boots back. Well, Jake, I was just going to let you put them on and take them home. Not your size. All right, are you guys ready?
It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for your mental enjoy. You can hang out with all the boys. YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. Young man, there's no need to feel down. Young man, pick yourself off the ground.
All right, you feel better? Okay. Woo! Who's read the book If You Give a Mouse a Cookie? To your kids, maybe. I feel like that's what I'm dealing with right now. I gave y'all a cookie and you had to go over and do this and do that, and now we are, sorry, Dacno, about 3 minutes late to get you up here. Couple of announcements. Where's Richard Waystack?
I know, I'm in trouble.
Leave it to the new guy to stir up trouble. Just to be clear, this is the script session. Anyone who thought Alexis was having her own session, she is not. She's going to be up here shortly, and I suggest you get ready, because once Alexis gets started, she's like the Energizer Bunny. Be prepared. That's announcement number one. Announcement number two, and I'll say it again at the end of this session, but I know some of you lose your attention span about 20 seconds from now. We start at 8 o'clock tomorrow, not 8:30. Who said it? Stand up, sister. Would it be okay if we give you more than we promised when you originally signed up for the conference? Yes. Okay. I guarantee you what you're going to hear in the first 25 minutes tomorrow is worth getting out of bed early. So no matter where you end up tonight, and I do not want video submissions, by the way, I expect you to be here bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. If you drink half the caffeine that Christine Cura, I think, had today, you should be in good shape. We're going to have an awesome session at 8 o'clock. Who's willing to get up and get their butts down here at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning? Anybody want to confess right now that it's just not going to happen? Okay, fine. Now, many of you may have noticed that I did a little wardrobe change. I had a white shirt on this morning. Anybody notice? Of course you did not. I am now wearing the How's It Going shirt. You want one of these? They're awesome, aren't they? Dacno has them. So, if you guys would come on up here. I love this team. Brad, I've known for years now, and I just love everything that this company stands for. If you're looking for a new web solution or lead generation marketing solution, they're wonderful. And I'm going to turn it over to you guys for the next 5 minutes.
5 minutes, we're on the clock. Thanks, everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Luke. This is Amy, along with Brad, our founder, and Amy Freeman's around here somewhere, and about 20 other super talented people. We make up Dacno Marketing. And no, we only have 2 Amy's on staff, but with Dacno Marketing, we are made up of 2 primary sections. One is our software side of the company, and the other is our marketing agency.
Yes, so about our marketing agency, we really focus on strategy, web design, and lead management. So we really get to work with a lot of great stars here and members of Star Power like Linda Kraft and the Rains Group, Leslie McDonald, Martin Bauma. We really could go on and on about them.
That's right. And while we're super proud of our DACNO admin platform, our DACNO agency, we're super proud of our DACNO admin software as well. And we're going to share a couple updates that are coming on the market now about our DACNO admin app. Our DACNO admin app is fully automated, mobile first, and now AI powered CRM app. And before we get into AI, we're going to share a couple updates as well.
So anytime you start using a new CRM, you always have the pain point of, I've got to get contacts into that CRM. So you have to export, import. Well, we have, yeah, it's a pain. We know, we've shed a few tears about that. So what we have done in the app, and we've made it very easy. So basically with just clicking 2 buttons, we are able to import those contacts for you.
That's right. As well as being able to log calls, text, emails, all that's now automated within our DACNO admin app. So no more having to log any notes, log any calls, all that's now automated within the palm of your hand. And hey, we're in real estate. So being able to have the IDX data integrated with into the app as well. You're able to see all those data points, the search histories, the back on site visitors, all that is critical data that's in the palm of your hands now.
That's a lot of data. And we know you all have so much time to go through all that data, which actually we're talking, contacts when they come in, how they're interacting on the site, the properties that they're looking at. Not really. You don't have time to do that. So we got a solution for you.
That's right. And all this data that we've been talking about, this is your data. This is data that you own. It's not owned by your broker or your MLS, and it's certainly not owned by Zillow. This is your data that you own. So hey, you kind of need a digital assistant to help you manage all this data. Well, we're introducing a little hedgehog named Zoe. She's the smartest.
She's cute.
And the cutest digital AI assistant. So with Zoe AI, all those data points that are in our DACNO admin app get summarized into bite-sized pieces that are easily digestible, easily viewed. You will see what leads you're doing on your site in bite-sized summaries, being able to see when the lead is most likely to engage with you and how you need to interact with the lead to have meaningful, deeper conversations that will ultimately close more deals.
So we're really excited about Zoe AI, and it's actually going to roll out in Q4. But because we have so many stars here that are DACNO admin users, make sure you're update on your app. You want to have the latest update. You should be getting a push notification in a few minutes. And so now you're going to be part of the test version to be able to start utilizing the app.
That's right. Any current client with is going to be able to utilize Zoe AI insights with our test group that we're launching right now. Our dev team is back on the East Coast, being ready to send everybody a push notification, and this offer extends to everybody in this room. So if you're not a DACNO client yet, and yes, there's a lot of you out here, so we are extending this offer to you to be able to enter our test group for free, be able to test Zoe AI Insights. So welcome to Zoe AI. Thank you.
What realtor doesn't like the word free? Free, 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 free. What was that, a QuickBooks commercial or something? I can't remember. Who was it? Tax people? I don't know. I've been going full throttle all day, so I'm a little punchy and slap happy. Lucky you guys. All right. We've got the QR code up for conference products. I want you all to know about a little challenge I threw down to the stars yesterday. Are there any competitive people in the room by show of hands? All right, I'm giving y'all a jump start on the stars. They have a different QR code. This is where you can get pre-registered for conference next year, along with everything else we do, coaching. For those of you who don't know, we now have a buyer and seller's guide available. They're Canva templates. We all love Canva, right? Super easy. So those are going to be real-time updated as forms drop from the NAR. We're looking to add some compensation educational pieces to those books. They're not in there yet because it's not what day? August 17th? That's the drop date. I know, some of you got an early start. Yay, Indiana, you're so cool. But we're not doing anything with the books until August 17th hits. But if you get the buyer and seller guides, you're going to be able to change them in Canva all you want to. Everything that we have to purchase or invest in is at this QR code. Here's the challenge I threw down to the stars. I hold them to the highest standard. It's part of being a star. I want attendees, 50% of you signed up for next year by the end of this conference. I made the stars commit to 70%. Y'all are getting your QR code first. I'm giving you a jump start. Now, Greg Newman, don't go running to registration and insist on getting your star QR code. We'll get it to you soon. I know you will. You already made that commitment. In fact, where's Beth Mason? Is she in the room? I was just to hold her up as a pillar of the community for being first on something. She's not here. All right. She's already in Salt Lake. She was the first one to sign up for next year's conference. So, if you already know you're coming, the prices are only good on site for until when? Sunday, because they're on-site prices. Why do you guys call me on Wednesday and say, I meant to sign up and I just forgot? I'm making it easy for you, okay? So get signed up for conference. I'm going to have the panel come up, and I will give you an update tomorrow to let you know how stars versus attendees are doing. For those of you who are competitive, I'll come back and let you know. Let's go ahead and welcome this panel on up here. Give them a big round of applause.
Up the stairs and
Fasten your seatbelts, everybody.
right up here. Jesus.
This session is about teaching you best practices for objection handling and negotiating. Aaron, what are you smiling about? What happened down there?
Can't repeat it.
Melinda's acting up.
Oh, Melinda's the trouble child today. I did not expect that. Okay, so we have Alexis from Pensacola, Farah from Memphis, just down the road, Aaron from the entire state of Maine.
I like that. I'll take the whole thing. Any of your referrals, my way.
We got anybody else here from Maine?
No.
There you go. Melinda Estridge from Bethesda, Maryland, which is the DC metro area. Leslie McDonald. Oh, well, Melinda has a fan club. Now everybody else is going to feel sad if they don't get like extra cheering section. Leslie, I put Chicago. She's from Libertyville specifically. And Les Walden from Seneca, South Carolina.
I got the whole state of South Carolina, the whole state.
I got to tell a quick story on Les. This is the cool part of running an organization. Like, I can do what I want, and you guys really can't do anything about it.
Well, we could.
When Les came out to Boulder to get interviewed way back when, he's from South Carolina, and we're in Boulder, Colorado. And he walks into the front of our office. It was the middle of winter, and he goes, "Woo! It's colder than the well digger's butt outside." My team went, "Who is this guy? Is that really gonna?" But anyway, I pick on Les, but he's absolutely fabulous with scripts and dialogues, and he's actually built a formula. I want to start with a quote to set the tone for today. And that is, the more you educate up front, the fewer objections you'll encounter later. Would you agree with that? Yes. And with all we've got coming out since the settlement agreement with the Department of Justice, is it now more important than ever to educate people up front before we work with them? It absolutely is. So Les, if you don't mind, I would like us to start with your 3-step process for handling objections.
I'm going to stand up. If that's
Do
okay.
it.
You know why, too, right?
Yeah.
You know why. So,
His brain's in his butt. If he sits down, he falls asleep.
yeah, don't think very well.
I get the
And
first slide.
I do talk fast, as y'all can tell. So if I'm going too fast, y'all just tell me to slow down. What I noticed with my team when we would talk about scripts and dialogues and how we talk to people all the time, and what I found was if you have a script that you're following, it's just like a movie, right? If I say a line, I expect you to say the appropriate line back. But what happens if you don't? Have you ever gotten frustrated? Have you, I don't know where to go now? You kind of trip over your words. So rather than teaching this exact script, I came up with this idea of a 3-step process where you can build your own scripts, right? Where you can build your own scripts. And the reason these guys are so great at what they do is they've built their own through their knowledge of the industry, right? They've built their own scripts. So what we're going to talk about is this 3-step process. The first step is you have to get their attention, right? I want to get someone's attention when I'm talking to them. And I'm going to say things like, what do you know about? So there's something that's coming up we're all worried about, right? At least some people are worried about. It's the NAR settlement, right? Do y'all know what NAR is? Yeah. Nobody out in public does, though, right? But a good way to lead into that with these magic words is say, what do you know about? Are you worried about having that conversation with somebody? What do you know about the National Association of Realtors settlement? And then one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to tell you what they know, or they're going to say, I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And then you're going to be able to talk to them about it. Another phrase to get someone's attention is, how open-minded are you? I'm looking at this young lady right here. You look like Ariel. My daughter looks like Cinderella. So,
That's so cute.
and I think you're a Disney person, right? Too? Yeah, okay. And the thing you want to say there is, how open-minded are you? One of the cool things about that phrase, and I call it magic words, is that no one on the planet wants to be considered closed-minded. So now I have an opportunity to talk to you about something that I want to talk to you about, right? So it's not necessarily a script, it's how do I get your interest. The second step is, now I've got to grab your attention. And Miss Disney right here is going to help me out. Just imagine is once upon a time to an adult. Just imagine yourself living in this home. Just imagine yourself and buying this investment property. What will it mean for your family 20 years from now? Another one of those phrases, magic words I like to call them, how would you feel if? Now, some people run towards a positive. Some run away from a negative. How would you feel if someone else buys this property? How would you feel if your children didn't get to go to these schools? Right? So now I've got you, and I've grabbed your interest in what I want to talk about. And the third step is I've got to move you to a decision. So I'm not a salesperson. And I said this on a conference call, and Amy's like, wow, that's cool. I'm a professional mind maker-upper. Right? I'm a professional mind maker-upper. I want you to make a decision whether it is to move forward or go away. That's all I want you to do. Whatever's right for you is what I want for you, so I've got to have that. And the way we do that is, I like the magic words, or the way I see it. We have 3 options. One of the ways we use this is my team uses it in a listing appointment. There's 3 pricing options. The way I see it, we have 3 pricing options. First one is needle in a haystack. Second one is shock and awe. And the third one is market value. Which one are you? I'll let them pick, right? I've given them a range. but now they're going to tell me how they want me to proceed. But I got their attention, and I'm getting them to make a decision. So that's the 3-step process that my team uses to build their own scripts. Now, when I say you build your own script, you got to know your industry. How many people in this room read the 103-page NAR settlement? Raise your hand. Yeah, I did too. Boy, it was... and
Why
I read
not?
slow, kind of like I talk. It took a while. You've got to know your industry. These guys know their industry, and that's why they're so good with scripts.
I was just going to ask you to repeat the 3 names of the prices because I saw some people trying to write it down.
So the 3 names we give them, you can give them any names you want. The needle in the haystack, you know what's cool about that one? It's really hard to find that needle, and sometimes you never find it. The second one is the shock and awe. And the shock and awe is where we're going to go in below market value. We want the market to go, oh my God, we got to go buy that house. And the third one is just hit market value, right? And the way we frame those, the decision I want you to make is always that last one, right? And it's always the one in the middle. So no matter what I want you to make a decision about, I'm going to give you 3 options. One of them is going to be one that is really difficult. Another one's probably going to be staying kind of where you are. And then the third one is where I think you need to be. Right? Is that helpful?
It absolutely helps. Thanks for that, Les. I want to, for all of y'all, some of you in the room, presenting buyer agency is a brand new concept to you. Others of you have been doing it for ages. As a matter of fact, when I got licensed back in 1992, that was one of the first things I was taught was how to present agency in the state of Indiana. So that was just what you were supposed to do. Les and Alexis, I'm going to pick on you two if that's okay, because you're already in flow with the conversations you've been having with clients based on what we're facing. And we're not going to spend this whole session on the NAR settlement. We've got 2 great breakout sessions for that. If you need more help, go to the buyer counseling or the seller counseling. But I do want to just hit this with you guys because you've been doing this for a long time. How do you initiate the conversation with the buyer or the seller? And Alexis, you want to go first? Buyer or seller? You pick one.
Well, a lot like what Les said, I'm question-based when I'm speaking with buyers and sellers. You know, I'm not there to tell and I'm not there to sell. I'm there to get data to find out what I can do to help them. So the first question I'm going to ask is, what have you heard about the new rules with the decision that the lawsuit, DOJ, and National Association of Realtors have come together with this settlement? What do you know about it? Then I'm going to be quiet and let them tell me. The next question I have is, how do you feel about it? All right, how do you feel about it? And then based on what they tell me, we're going to go into a discussion. So if you don't know what they know, and you don't know how they feel about it, if they know about it or they don't know about it, then how are you going to talk to people and help them? So I just want to say this a little off the subject, but on the subject. When I got a real estate license in 1978, folks, there was no offer of compensation in the MLS, period. So get that through your head. We've already worked through that. So those of you who are worried because there's no compensation offered in MLS, understand that 46 years ago we were still selling houses and we were still getting paid for it. Here's the other thing I want you to get in your head. All right? No longer do I have to depend on you to negotiate my fee with the seller. I'm going to get more money. DOJ is going to be shocked because they think we're working for less, and I got news for them. We're working for more. Okay? So I'm going to have that discussion with the buyer about, you know, what I can do for them. And many of you were in the session earlier today. We get paid for what we know and what we know how to do. We're a consultant. We get a professional fee just like their CPA does. So if you go at it with that attitude, you get paid for your local knowledge. You get paid for your negotiation skills. You get paid to get them to closing regardless of the issue. If the other agent can't handle it, how many of you have had to handle the other side of the deal to get it closed? Absolutely. So, those are things that are part of your value. So once you get into the conversation with them, and I find out what they know, and I cover, okay, you don't know anything, so here's the new deal, and here's what we have to do. And unfortunately, they made a rule, used to say that you could go to Alabama, from Alabama folks here, you could go over to Alabama because we're right on the line, and you could get a different deal over in Alabama, but now I can't even send them to Alabama because we're all stuck. So I tell them, we're all in the same boat. All 50 states are making this rollover at the same time, so there's nowhere to hide. And so I ask them how they feel about it. If they tell me they don't like it, guess what I say? I don't like it either. I don't like it either. Any better than you do. I think they just took away your First Amendment rights. And I think they took away the state's rights to govern. But they don't care what I think, and they don't care what you think. So here we are today. We got to sign an agreement. And I'm going to go over it.
Liz?
My turn? Great. So we've been doing buyer agency and what is now called transaction brokerage in South Carolina for quite some time. And so my team just asked a simple question. Do you want me to work for you and get you the best deal on the property you want to buy, or do you want me to work for nobody? And let them make that decision. And I've never had anybody say, well, I don't really want you to work for me. Right? And then that gives me the opportunity. I said, great, that's exactly it. But when they said, well, I want you to help me get the best deal. Great, that's exactly how we wanted to work. And because of that, we have these forms you need to sign. And we just review the forms with them. We go over it thoroughly. Understand this, you're worth every penny you make. Every penny. And so it's not uncommon for my team to ask for apples. Another agent offer oranges, and our buyer bring the apples because we explained it to them.
You got to believe in your value. Aaron.
So we've had buyer agency in Maine for a long time. I think they mandated it in 2006. I got my license in 2002. We were doing it voluntarily before that. I think one misnomer that I want to get out there is that we think that buyers don't want to sign. Well, in our market, it's commonplace. And if your market, it hasn't been for a while, just know that after a little bit, buyers are going to know that that's the deal. I'd say over half the time right now when I meet with a buyer, they say, last time I worked with an agent, they made me sign something. I'm ready to sign with you. They bring it up. I'm not bringing it up, so what are you doing worrying about how you're going to bring it up? They'll bring it up. And if not, you just say, this is how we work. Before I show you this first house, we need to sign a document. Here are your options. And then you give them their options, and it'll go well. And the one script I want to throw out that anyone from the panel I stopped in on earlier on financing, there's a great line that I like to have when I'm going through the buyer agent agreement that talks about how I get paid. Anyone remember what it was? I don't work for free. I don't work for free. And that's what I say. When we go, I said, we probably should talk about how I get paid because I need to let you in on a secret. I don't work for free. And to a person, every single one of them, just like out of the movie that Les was talking about, to a person, everyone says, well, I don't expect you to. I said, great, then let me talk to you about how I get paid. And that gives you the introduction. You've grabbed their attention, you've got their buy-in, and now we're gonna talk about how I get paid. And I make them feel good about how it's gonna go because I know I'm worth it. I know I'm worth what more than everyone else is making in my market, but I'm willing to do it at that market rate. Isn't that wonderful? So we figure out how we're gonna go on this together, and you're gonna be the one that teaches them how it's gonna be okay. And really, the buyers are just really, if they trust you, if they know that you have their best interests, they want your help, they want your assistance, and they realize that you bring value.
Very well said.
You're the only one here with a law degree from Harvard. The rest of us aren't. You learned how to bill.
If a waitress, a lawyer, and a well digger's butt can do it, you can do it too. All right? Okay, here's what I want to do. These are going to be jump balls. So whoever makes eye contact with me first raises a hand.
You want to cover the seller side?
Sure.
Because we kind of
All
hit
right.
the buyer side. I don't
Yeah,
know.
okay.
We didn't really hit a seller side. So again, in South Carolina, I don't know how we got ahead of everybody else because we're really slow. And we seem to be really ahead because we've been doing this for a while. So the conversation now, and I'm just trying to give y'all lines of conversation. So the conversation with a seller now, when we start talking about compensation, when they ask, my team gets apples. And normally, the apples, is half of what you normally would say, right? Y'all know what I'm saying? Because I'm not going to use numbers. Apples is half of what you'd normally say. They get really excited about that. Like, oh my God, they're cutting me a deal. Once they get excited, then we look at them and very calmly say, now let's talk about how much compensation you want to offer a buyer's agent. How much do you want to offer them? We can offer 0. We can offer 22%. We can offer whatever number you want to offer. And we talk to them about the benefit or the negatives of each one, right? It's just that simple. This is what you should have been doing really all along anyway, right? It's no different. There's nothing that's going to be any different.
You don't pay anything unless we're successful.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's the biggest thing. You're not
I think
paying
Alexis
anything
called it a professional fee.
unless somebody buys a house.
Get the word commission out of your mouth now. You charge a success fee.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody in here ever get paid for not getting it sold? Please raise your hand because I want to have a conversation with you.
We will now.
We will now, right?
We charge them a retainer fee. At least we'll get paid something, which is why I said we're going to get more money than we got before. Okay, so yeah, we will now because we did a lot of work before, and if they didn't buy a house, we didn't get paid anything. So we didn't even get a reimbursement for gas, much less dinner or lunch. So they didn't think anything about it, right? So now you can charge a retainer fee. But, more than ever, you're going to be paid more. Here's the other thing. Nobody in this room is involved in this, but we got a lot of agents out there who have been lazy as all get out and still getting paid the same as you. That will stop. All right?
Amen. All right. We could go on and on and on about this. We got 2 breakouts. You need more, go get it. Jump ball situation. I just got to get to the point. That's what I do. Counseling buyers. I heard I don't have to pay you as a buyer's agent. Who wants it?
I'll take it.
Y'all gonna have to jump faster, or Alexis is gonna do every one. Go ahead. No, Alexis got you first, Les. Sorry.
So I think you need to have a discussion there, as I mentioned in our session this morning. As I said, why would you think I should work for nothing, because I'm sure you don't. And just hush and let them say something because there's nothing to say. All right? They're employed somewhere, they're self-employed, and they're not working for nothing. So then the other answer I might give them is, well, you certainly don't have to pay me anything because we certainly can choose not to work together. But somehow or another, we're going to have to sign a contract before I can show you a house. And we're going to have to come to an agreement on whether or not you value my services. And if you value my services, then you'll be more than willing to pay my professional fee. If you don't value my services, we can part company right now, and you can go find somebody else that you don't value who might want to work with you.
Anybody want to follow that? All right. I don't want to sign a form to go see houses. Can't you just show it to me?
Come on, Farrah.
We'll be able
All right,
to do
I'll
that
do that
way
one.
more.
Go, Farrah.
I've gotten this one multiple times recently. I think it goes back to what Aaron said, which is, well, unfortunately, I don't work for free. And they go, oh, well, we weren't, okay. Well, unfortunately, this is what the NAR settlement has done, and I kind of walk them through, do you know what it's about? We walk through that. And go back to the question one more time.
I don't want to sign a form to go see houses. Can't you just show it to me?
Unfortunately, I don't work as a one-time transaction. I like to work with my clients, and I treat my clients as a lifetime client. And for that reason, I usually start with signing a contract to make sure that I get compensated for the work that I have done.
Great.
Pretty simple.
Aaron and then Les.
So first of all, I'd say I can appreciate that. I hate signing documents too. Really bums me out. But let me tell you why we have this document. It's really about consumer protection. And what we want to make sure is before we walk in that house, you know what you can expect from me, and I know what I can expect from you. So let's spend some time on the document and decide whether or not you'd like to sign it.
Great.
Man, he's good, isn't he? He's real good. I just go back to what Aaron said earlier because I'm simple. I don't work for free. And you've got your out. you got your out now with that, right? Y'all know that? Because the NAR settlement says you can't do that, right? You've got an out. If somebody says, well, I don't want to sign, can't do it that way. So what's the next comment that's going to come from the buyer? That person that wants to see the house. What are they going? Well, such and such showed me. Yeah. Oh my God. That's malpractice. I don't think I can. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to lose my license. And what do you think they're going to think about that other person then? Right. Yeah. You're just educating. That's all you're doing.
The other thing is, I say take them back to the real world. How many times have you had to go to see the doctor where you have to fill out HIPAA forms that you can't even figure out what they say and nobody explains them to you? Right? Thank God this isn't that bad. And just go through the form with them, because they sign all kinds of things every single day. How many times you go online, you have to give consent to get some information on Zillow or Google, and they just scroll down and click, and they have no idea what they consented to, and you may say that to them, or I will, and then say, here at least we're going to go over everything because we're going to be very transparent. And that was the gist of the settlement, is that they want us more transparent. So I'm going to be more transparent with you, but I've always been transparent. But I'm really expecting you to be a little more transparent with me than you have been in the past with other realtors.
Alexis, I love you for so many reasons.
I'm sorry.
All right. I'm trying to plan for closing costs. How much do I have to pay you?
So this one varies state to state, from what I'm understanding.
What? Who wants it?
I couldn't hear you.
But
How much do I have to pay you? Because I'm trying to plan for my closing costs. We're still on the buyer's side.
I think you just tell them this is what we charge. And then when they say, well, I can't do this, I want to make less. Well, if you work for a brokerage, it's super easy. This is what my brokerage charges. I do this with sellers all the time. This is my brokerage. Can't you do it for less? No, I don't own the place. That's what they charge. And what can you say after that? There's nothing.
Leslie, I own the place, and I blame company policy all the time.
Right.
It's company policy. That's what we're going to do.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, there's nothing to say after that. What can you say after
But
that?
you're also giving
Okay.
people options. I mean,
Yes.
there are ways to do this. Either the seller, we can negotiate with the seller to pay your commission. We can add it into the mortgage. There's a way to work it out if there's, not money enough to do that. So,
I think
mean,
on
and you
the-
don't work with people unless they hire you. I
On
mean,
our
it's just
session,
pretty simple.
on our planning session, you guys talked about, again, the 3 options. And there are variations in between that. So it could be that the seller decides that they want to compensate. It could be that you fully compensate me. And there may be something in the middle that it's a shared cost, right?
So I'm trying to figure out how that question comes up, because I've already educated you. I've already educated. You know exactly what you're paying me, because we went over that form before you ever went to the first house.
So maybe it comes up when you've got a lead on the phone and you haven't had the chance to go through the document with them. Alexis?
Well, so I had a seller call me years ago and said he was interviewing agents, and I'm going to make it short. I told him I didn't interview well. So at any rate, we went on with the questions, and we made an appointment to go over on Wednesday at 2 o'clock and see him. And so I said, well, I'll see you Wednesday at 2. And he goes, just a minute. I want to know how much you're going to charge me. And I said to him, well, I have no idea. I haven't seen your house yet. And he said to me, what does that mean? And I said, well, if it's ugly, I charge more. So understand, all right, it's okay to do that, because first of all, you don't even know who this person is. You've never seen them before. You may or may not want the listing. Unfortunately, it was a waterfront home by the country club, and I really wanted the listing. And so, I mean, don't be so worried about what to say, because you can say almost anything and they'll agree to it. I mean, I had one, I listed the house, and afterwards I said, is there any other questions I should have asked that I didn't ask? And he said, well, no, not really, but I have a question. And I said, what is it? He goes, how long did I sign up for? I said, well, we went over that. The listing agreement's 9 months. And he goes, oh, I don't want to do that. I said, I don't either, because I've given birth before, and that takes a long time, and I'm expecting you to get this house sold in the next month, because I don't want to go through that pain again. And he went, okay. Just quit worrying about all that stuff. I'm sorry.
All right, so I warned you. I warned every one of you. Let's talk about counseling the sellers. Since we had such a lovely transition to that. I only want to pay closing costs. I don't want to pay the compensation too. I don't want to pay both on the buyer side. This is a seller talking. Aaron?
So here's what we're gonna do. You actually told me that you don't want me to bring you offers that build in closing cost or the fee for the buyer agent. So what we're gonna focus on every offer I present to you is how much money's going in your pocket. We're gonna start there, and then we'll talk about the other terms. Would that be okay?
Excellent.
Well, and closing costs were never part of the compensation anyway. Agents wrote it into the contract, right? So it's the same thing.
People don't understand what closing costs are,
Yeah.
right? They're like, I had to pay mine, or once I needed it. And you gotta explain to them why we're doing this, right? All right, when a buyer comes and asks you to pay closing costs, they're not asking you to pay their closing costs. They're asking if they can borrow more money at the rate that gets secured against the house. So they need to borrow the money to pay the closing costs, and they're asking us to roll it into the deal because Americans aren't good at saving. I say that a lot. Americans aren't good at saving. So a lot of buyers might need to borrow that money, and they're just asking you to help them by letting them make it part of their loan. So we don't really care. As long as you get the number that you're excited about, do you want to sell them the house? Most times they say yes.
And Mr. Seller, if they offered you more than your asking price, would you be willing to pay some closing costs? I mean, it's all about
Yep.
net, right?
And to add to Aaron, I would also make sure that you're taking your net proceeds sheets, that you're showing them hopefully at the listing presentation, and you're changing the word. So, right, instead of saying buyer's professional fee, maybe you're changing that to part of the compensation. So you're having a whole separate section that says compensation and maybe includes the buyer's side that you're going to pay, the potential closing costs, and then also the repairs, right? And you call that entire section concessions. So that way, when you're looking at the bottom line, you've already got it in there.
And sellers need to understand how much of the market you might be cutting out if you don't.
Yep.
And so we'll probably have better statistics as we move forward, but we all know that if it's a VA buyer, somebody light on cash, whatever, there's no way for them to come up. You're going to cut your showings by so much. Let's entice agents to show this listing versus turn them away.
Careful with that word.
And the other thing I want you to think about is this. You got a $500,000 house. The buyer comes in at $500,000 and they're asking for $15,000 in closing costs. I say to the seller, well, instead of cutting your price, which they would do if they had cash, they're leaving your price alone. And they're asking you to help them roll their closing costs into the deal. Now, we could counter back and say we don't want to pay any closing costs, at which point, if that buyer has the money, they're going to say, great, I'll pay you $4 1/4. And I'll pay my own closing costs, because that's how buyers think. So right now, you have a $15,000 offer less than what you're asking. So my question is that good enough? And if not, how much is good enough? Because that's what you got on the table. When you don't take this offer, you're buying it back at $500,000. So I want you to consider this before you make a decision, because it doesn't make any difference to me. You're in charge, your choice as to whether you sell this house or not. You now have an opportunity. It's more money than the opportunity you had yesterday, which was zero.
Leslie, my sales price isn't impacted by what I pay a buyer agent.
Your sales price isn't impacted, but your opportunity is. That's a simple answer. Because you're not giving yourself the opportunity to get multiple offers if you're not paying compensation.
Okay. Anyone else want to take that one?
Market value has always been based on usually commission being offered to the other side. So I don't know why sellers feel they'll make the same amount if they're not paying any compensation. So if you do net sheets, you do one where it was typically on both sides and one without, but lower the price by that amount. Fine, we don't have to pay compensation, but then here's what the asking price might be.
However, if they're buying a for sale by owner, all the comps that the appraiser is using is based on sales we closed in MLS that had a professional fee in it. So the appraiser might very likely back that out. And then therefore, your appraisal value will be less. So why don't we just do this? And the appraiser's got good comps to use because they've closed with compensation. If we don't do that, then we're subject to them subtracting it out and your house doesn't appraise. So you think about that.
Can I put a different spin on this? 'Cause I think like any opportunity like this one you get, read the objection again.
My sales price isn't impacted by what I pay a buyer agent.
So Amy, let's talk about the value of buyer agency. And you're not the buyer, so let's talk about how it benefits you, the seller. First of all, when I'm putting a deal together, I like having someone competent on the other side of the deal that's gonna get this to closing. And that costs money. If this deal falls apart, it could cost us time. We might have to go back on the market. We might have to find another buyer. We might get a worse deal in the future. We want someone to be guiding that buyer. And by the way, you mentioned that I am a lawyer, which I usually don't admit. I hate getting sued. Who here likes getting sued? Well, if there's no buyer agent involved, Miss Seller, there are only two people for that buyer to sue, you and me. If they have a competent buyer agent that's been compensated to represent them, that's the person we point to that said that was the person that was supposed to protect you and your interests. Isn't it worth offering buyer representation and compensating that buyer agent so that at the end of the day, rather than them pointing fingers at us, they've got someone to look at? I don't like getting sued. I doubt that you do either.
I do not like getting sued.
You need to turn it around for sellers. When you're going into your new market to buy a property, how would you feel about a listing that included the compensation versus something you're paying out of pocket? So remember, I don't know who remembers when the market was bad before. People were offering it, Greg Newman and I were talking about it, cars, bonuses, everything. So, as soon as that market shifts to some degree, sellers will be more than happy to pay the compensation on the other side to bring those buyers in.
Need to bring the seller back to the buyer's shoes. So let me ask you a question. The last time you were the buyer, could you have done this all by yourself? What was the agent you were working with able to help get the transaction closed so it is a win-win situation for the buyer and seller? If you had that experience, then that's what's going to happen now. So that agent's going to see this through to closing with that buyer, and it's going to be a win-win because you see, you're in the driver's seat. You get to choose what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. The part of the agent's job is to make sure that once you've consummated that contract, my job as the listing agent is the same as the job of the agent working with the buyer, and that is we are obligated, usually by law in our states, to get it to closing at the terms that you agreed to. So wouldn't you be more comfortable having an agent on the other side who could work with us to do that? Because their job with the buyer is to work with us to consummate this contract. So I want you to think about that, put yourself in the buyer's shoes, because you're gonna be there again when you sell this house.
All right, I want to shift the narrative now away from this compensation piece and into the stuff that you hear all the time and people still need help with. And I'm going to open myself up to a risk here. If any of you, a couple of you have my cell phone number and texted me a couple of things that you'd like to have handled, I can throw stuff at you all day long, but if there's some burning objection you've been dealing with, here's my number. You can text it to me right now. Are you ready? 303-956-6749. So, before I get to the first one texted to me, this is for anyone on the panel. What are you laughing about?
I was going to text you.
We were all going to text you.
You know I have all your numbers in my phone, so I'm going to know that it was you that did it, Aaron.
I've got a burner number. Google Voice is great.
You charge the same percentage for a $300,000 house as you do for my $3 million house. Why?
Has anyone gotten this one before?
No.
Somebody did.
I did. I think I brought it up because it's one of the ones that like I hadn't heard before. It's always nice when you get a new one, right? Because you got to think on your feet a little bit. But like if you think about it, this is what I said to them. I'm like, you're right. I probably should charge more for more expensive houses. I probably should. I don't know why. But here's why I'm willing to do it. Here's why I'm willing to give a discount to those entry-level buyers. It's because I'm making an investment in the lifespan of that buyer. Our philosophy at our company is that we have clients for life. And my hope is that when I sell that house to that low-income buyer or that low purchase price, that I'm not just getting one deal out of it. I'm gonna do such an exceptional job that they're gonna tell their friends, their family, everyone that they meet. And when they outgrow that home, they're gonna wanna come and sell it and buy another one with me. So I'm willing to take a discount and make an investment in that entry-level buyer or that entry-level seller. And maybe I shouldn't, maybe you're right, maybe I should charge them more, but I'm willing to keep my rates the same for you.
I don't know that we need any other dialogue than that. All right, this is going back to a buyer who doesn't want to sign the form. Well, I'll just call the listing agent.
Please call me. I mean, I've already had that. And, you know, and so when they call, I say, you know, are you represented? No, I'm representing myself. Have y'all heard that? Yep. Okay, so we all know that he represents himself as a fool for a client. So then I say, why would you do that? Tell me what your motive is here. And then listen to what they have to say. What do you think their motive is? They think they're going to save money. Right. So I tell them, well, unfortunately, there's two parts to the professional fee, and I'm only charging the seller's side, so we'll be asking you to pay the buyer's side. Because the seller's only paying the seller's side. And so if you're coming to me as the listing agent expecting me to do it for free, then I would tell you that that's not how I work. That doesn't fit in to my business plan. I would much prefer that you go find another agent to show you the house and work with that agent to represent you. But if you want me to work with you, because we can do that in Florida because we're transaction brokers, we have no fiduciary relationship to anybody, just to the transaction, I'll be glad to do so. And my professional fee is 3 apples. So what would you like to do? If you'd like to see it, we sign the form. If you don't want to see it, fine, you might call somebody else, whatever you want to do. And here's the problem we have as agents. We're too afraid to lose the money, to lose the sale. They can smell it. Now, be in a position to where you don't have to have their listing and you don't have to have their sale. You don't have to have the buyer, or you don't have to have the listing. I mean, I'm in a point, and most of our stars are, to where I can really truthfully say everything I have is paid for. I can live to be 112 and I'm okay financially. So I'm the only agent you're going to meet that can afford to tell you the truth, because it's not about the money.
Les?
Repeat the question.
I'm sorry.
I want to, if you're going to make me sign a form, I'll just call the listing agent and have them show me the house.
The last guy I heard say that's serving 20 to life. That's in my best Aaron voice, by the way, since he's the attorney.
I like it. Okay, offers. I'm going to go in low and let them counter. Anybody ever heard that from a buyer? Just checking.
I'm going to go in low and what?
I'm going to go in low and let them counter.
Well, I think you got to present data. I mean, that's the way around that. You know, if you're not presenting data on the front end, you're not educating the buyer, which is in turn going to cause you to not get the house.
Leslie, I know you showed me all this data, but my parents told me to go in low and then let them counter anyway.
I think you need to find another agent. No, seriously, because there's only so much you can do for those kind of people, and how
Right.
long are you going to torture yourself?
Les and then Melinda.
I think sometimes the best response is the most ridiculous response. And so when somebody says that, I say, well, can I just respond for the seller? Go ahead and respond for them. Leave me alone, asshole.
Melinda?
we've used this before. Do you want a good house or a good deal? I mean, I think that sellers, if you get off on the wrong foot, we all know, I say to people, the more you go back and forth on negotiation, the weaker your standpoint. The closer you can get, maybe you want to go in a little bit below what you think, and it depends on how long the house has been on the market. If it's 1 or 2 days, it's a no-brainer. If you're 30 to 60 days down the road, that may be different. And if they want to come in low on something that's been overpriced, that's acceptable. But I think buyers need to understand that, you know, let's get off on the right foot, because we're going to then have to negotiate the home inspection and everything else, and it's bad blood right out of the gate, right?
I think it goes back.
Farrah.
So we're getting a lot of this right now because the market's changing in our market, and a lot of people are, well, the market's changing, so I have the upper hand, and therefore I want to go in low. So I've had a few that have gone in 100,000 low. A few that have been completely rejected. So what do you think about that? They'll usually say, what do you think about me going in at this number? And I was like, that's very low, and I want you for a second to put yourself in the seller's shoes. You probably would be offended if this was your house or your building. And on a second note, let's say that by presenting this offer that you want me to present, I work for you. If that's what you want me to do, I will do that. However, I want you to think about them being potentially offended and not wanting to work with you at all and rejecting your offer or not even responding to your offer. Are you okay with that outcome? And if they say, I'm okay with that outcome, they usually say they're okay with the outcome, but they're not. And then sure enough, we'll get an email back that says, they're not willing to play ball, go away.
I think Les said it all when he said, how would you feel if you lost this house? We're negotiating, somebody else comes in, boom, because once that offer is made, that agent is probably shopping that contract everywhere for anyone that's been sitting on the fence. So these
All
are
right.
things that you're educating up front about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No, really, they've got to make a decision. Do they want to write offers or do they want to buy a house?
Right.
And that's what I ask them. You know, I really don't need any practice writing offers. And so here's what I'd like you to do. When we go in at a price like that, I'm going to need to defend the price. So I gave you all the comps. I want you to pick me 3 of them that I can use to give to the listing agent to defend the position you've taken. And then all of a sudden they get quiet and I say, look, while you're doing this, I want you to think that you won't be sleeping in that house. Somebody else will be. So just like Farrah said, once they get mad at us, they will never deal with us again. Or if they do, it'll be a fight all the way to closing. So I say, let's not make an offer at all if your heart's not in this house. Let's just be honest with each other. And so, again, if you want to do that, let me do this. Hold on a minute. Farrah, this is Alexis. I've got these buyers here, and I know you're asking $500 for the house, but they want to ask for $100,000, and oh, by the way, they want $15 in closing costs. Do you think the seller will do it? And Farrah's going to tell me to eat dirt, and I'm going to say, okay, I just presented your offer. The answer is no. What would you like to do? Can you do a verbal? Yes. I'm not doing the 34 pages that we have to do to make an offer with a $100,000 low offer. That's crazy.
Yeah,
So,
and that's exactly how I handle it. Is like, are you okay with me doing a verbal offer since this is so low and I don't expect it to go through? And they usually will say yes. I think the big thing is once they get hit or burnt the first time, they usually, their second round of going to look for a house, they start to become more realistic.
it's even better when I put her on the speakerphone and they hear her saying, what, have you lost your mind?
All right. We got a few more to get to
How
from
many other people, but we've been so far over the asking price and no negotiating that for a lot of people, this is going to be a new phase, right?
real estate is cyclical, always has
Yeah.
been, always will be. This is on inspections and repairs. Well, we're scared. We got to looking at the interest rates and we want to back out.
I think you should. I mean, I really think you should. If your heart's not in the house, don't do it.
South Carolina handles that a little bit differently. Our offers are a built-in termination fee. So if you handle that discussion up front and you get the right termination fee, they're probably not going to want to write a check for $10,000 because the gutters are full, or maybe the payment's $100 more a month than they thought it was going to be.
Anybody had a deal fall apart recently for less than $1,000? What do you do when it's $500 that you're arguing over?
It's not $500 though. I think that Alexis's point is the right one. It's that if there's usually something else there. So there's a question of what's actually going on. Your spider sense goes off and you're like, what are we dealing with? And sometimes they're looking for an out because some other thing has changed. Or, and this is the one that you hate, right? The buyers that have been playing the game, and because it's been such a heated market, they just get accustomed to we got to throw an offer at everything, and then they catch the car and they're like, we didn't think we'd actually get it. So you've got to make sure that you're preparing these buyers for we're only writing offers on the houses you actually want to buy. And so there's a lot of prevention that goes in and not finding yourself in that situation for your buyer. But also, I mean, we all know on the other side, and this is really important in areas where it's been a strong seller's market, where it might be having more balance to it, there are many, 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 many newer agents who entered the market during this period of time when there were no inspections, there were no contingencies. And we've got to, again, hold their hand and coach them through it. You can't expect that just because you make your ask that they know what to do with it, because they may not have had to do that before. So I'll spend some time usually asking the other agent, especially if I know when they entered the market. I'll say, hey, by the way, have you had to present these before to your seller? And a lot of times people are proud and they'll say, yeah, of course. And I say, okay, because I know the market's been like this. Would you like some of the strategies that I use? And I share them because I think, again, just like I said earlier today about we got to help our colleagues in our local markets to kind of level up when it comes to defending the value proposition of buyer agency, when it comes to having transparent conversations about compensation with the public. Just like we got to level that up, we got to help level up our local markets on these conversations, because sometimes the biggest threat to your deal staying together is that other agent who just doesn't know what to do.
And in all fairness, I mean, if they go through, the roof is older, the appliances are older, the furnace is older, and they're suddenly looking at, you know, what they perceive as $30,000 to $40,000 in repairs, yeah, it's a problem. If you're a good buyer agent, you're checking out the ages of everything, and if you don't know, ask. You should be able to go on every inspection, look at a roof, look at a system, know about the approximate age, and let the people know as you manage expectations. There's not functional obsolescence. You don't ask for money because the furnace is older. We knew going in the furnace is a budget item. We know the roof is going to need some work. Unless it's something out of the ordinary, like a plumbing leak or something weird that nobody would have picked up, these are all things to go over with buyers. You're not nitpicking. How many people had agents hand them the home inspection? Fix, right? Bob Bolin has taught me to do a pre-inspection on every listing I've had, which has saved my life every single time, because you can let an agent know going in, by the way, furnace is hanging by a thread, and we price the home accordingly so that you know. And if there's any structural problems, you deal with it. But as a buyer agent, you should go on every home inspection that you can, learn to look at things and assess. If there's asbestos flooring, asbestos roof, bad insulation, know these things. It's a credit to your client, and you'll get many more transactions through.
We have one last category to get to, and I want to make sure we get it done. Agent to agent conversations. You all realize, as the best in the industry, you have a responsibility to coach the other agents, right? All right. So talk to me about what you're saying to those co-op agents.
As in?
When?
About what?
About what?
Any difficulties you're having around compensation, the NAR settlement, inspections, how are you coaching the other agents during the negotiating process? Alexis?
So if you live in the state of Florida, our contracts already have a place in the contract to negotiate up front how much the seller will pay in repairs, period. Secondly, you have an obligation to the buyer and as the listing agent, because you can't get insurance in the state of Florida. How is the roof? How is the heat and air? How is the hot water heater? Period. It doesn't matter if they have 5 years life left in them and the hot water heater is 15 years old. The insurance company doesn't matter. They don't care. You're not getting insurance. Same thing with the roof, same thing with the heat and air. So our sellers are pretty well versed because we're well versed. We ask every bit of those questions, including the normal ones that you ask: where are they going, how soon they got to be there, what is it the seller really wants here. And so those are all things that we're talking about. Now what we're doing right now as far as compensation goes, we have a form that Florida's put out already that is a seller broker to buyer broker compensation, where we're asking the seller if they'll pay some apples, and the seller says, okay, 2 apples. And so Orly calls and says, I want to show your listing on Elm Street. Is the seller paying any apples? I say yes. And I send her a form that says the seller's going to pay 2 apples. Tell her to sign it, send it back. Now she shows the house. Now what's going to happen is she's going to present all those forms she gets back to the buyer. And if she's got 5 listings to show and 3 of them are getting, the seller's giving the buyer some apples and 2 of them they're not, then she's going to present it to the buyer, and the buyer's going to say, put aside the 2 that aren't, let's look at the 3 that are, and we're going to move on. And we're having those conversations with the agent when they say they're not paying any apples, and I said, well, I'll be back to you to let you know if the buyer even wants to take a look at the house. So we're having all those conversations up front. What date does the seller want to close? What date does the buyer want to close? Before we ever write the offer.
Les.
So I do a lot of coaching outside of my team in my market with agents that present offers. So this is going to be from a listing agent's perspective, and have taught my team to do this because my team lists property as well. So anytime we get an offer in, the first call, we call right back to that agent that's made the offer, the buyer's agent or whatever they're calling themselves. And we just go through the whole offer. You know, we talk about things, but when you get to a section that I don't like, earnest money, termination fee, I don't care what it is. When I get to that section, all I'm going to do is ask you as a buyer's agent to help me understand where your buyer is coming from. Help me, because I've got to present this in the best possible light to my seller, right? And when they start talking, that gives me the opportunity to educate. There's a $500 earnest money fee on a $1 million house. I'm like, well, help me understand where your buyer's coming from. And when they start talking, well, I just, in the event that we get into a pissing contest, I just didn't want my buyer to lose their earnest money. I understand. Let's put ourselves in the seller's shoes. Really what the seller wants is to get to the closing table. Do you think you're giving them any assurances we're going to get there?
That's a great counter. Yeah, Melinda.
Be a good guy in your market. It is so important. I remember with multiple contracts, I might have 15. I still called every agent in person to let them know what happened, how much it sold for, and they're all so grateful. If people respect who you are in the market, it's so much easier. If an agent is very frustrated and nasty, it's probably because they have a frustrated, nasty buyer. And so I'll say to them, you must have been looking for a long time with your buyer, it must be difficult. And usually they'll begin to open up to you. We're working on this together. Let me tell you tell the story, what your seller's experience has been, what they're looking for, and that, look, it's worth making an offer, or I know they're not going to probably go this direction. What can we do to work that out? But as long as you're nice to the other agent and bring them around and know that you're working together to the same goal, it always makes a lot more sense than to be adversarial.
Leslie.
What I've been doing when I have multiple offers, like I had like 18, one time I had 18, one time I had 31 on a house. So literally I templated an email and said, your buyer didn't get the house because it was a cash offer. It was this, it was a lot of earnest money. It was, so I gave them something that they could go back to their buyer with. So, because we all know, we've been on the receiving end of, it's, what, I've had people call me, and so have you, that say, hey, we want to work with you because we have this agent, we've written 5 offers, we haven't gotten a house. And they're blaming the agent when in fact it's the buyers that are writing the crap offer. So at this point, then the agent has something to go back to the buyer with from the listing agent. And I, like I said, I copy and paste, and then I adjust it. And we chart everything to the sellers, like in a spreadsheet, so that I can go back, and it really does a lot for the other agent. And when you're on the other end of an offer with that person, they're like, oh, you were so nice to me. I hope you get this house.
Some agents don't even call. It just shows up in the computer.
And fair housing, you guys. You can show that you did the exact same thing with
Just
every
to
single transaction.
unlock one hidden gem that I hope all of you think about. Some of those agents that you're providing that feedback or that coaching to aren't gonna make it. They're not gonna be in the business next year or in 2 years or in 3 years. We know what the churn rate has been historically. And so on the law of averages, a lot of these agents presenting offers to you, they might not be agents tomorrow. Wouldn't it be amazing if they were left with such a great impression of having been on the other side from you, that when people call them about real estate, they're sending them to you, or when they need to buy real estate themselves, they're calling you? I think you should be looking at some of these agents who are going to be exiting the market as a source of business. I'm serious,
Absolutely.
dead serious. It happens all the time.
All right. I'm watching the time. We need to get to the end, so I want you guys to give a big round of applause to these guys. If you haven't already done so, you need to write your 3 takeaways down in your workbook. We have 2 universities coming up this fall. We have a listing mastery, October 24th and 25th. We have a buyer mastery, October 31st and November 1st. If you or someone on your team needs help with their scripts and dialogues, this is the place to send them. It's absolutely where you're going to get what you need. I'm going to throw the QR code up for you one more time so you get a leg up on the stars. We're not giving them their QR code until the morning. I know. Look at these 2. They're like, come on, Amy. All right? And one more reminder, we would love to see your pictures and videos you're taking from conference. I can't promise you they're going to show up in the closing video, but we will be looking for stuff to use in marketing. So if you want to see your beautiful face show up somewhere, dump your stuff in the folder. Finally, we still have tickets available for tomorrow's networking lunches. If you want to get in on the networking lunch, who went today? Was it worth your time and money? Yes. All right. Get signed up. Tomorrow we start at what time? 8. Sharp. Get out of here. Go have fun. Have a great night. God bless you all.